Hey, everybody. Okay, thank you for coming tonight for our last Hub Captain meeting of the year, our November Hub Captains meeting. And we've got a nice short agenda, no guest speakers. And so that should give us plenty of time for around the room. And we'll introduce an icebreaker at the around the room part. But for just basic introductions, let's go around the room and say who we are and what neighborhood or hub we're with. So I'm Cindy Barker. I'm with the Morgan Junction Hub. And then Ann Vaughn will go next, followed by Matt.
I'm Ann Vaughn, and I'm with the East Lake Hub.
And Ann has graciously agreed to take our minutes tonight. So
yep.
Thanks, Ann. Matt, followed by Frank Gall.
I'm Matt Blank, the Ravenna Hub.
Okay. Frank, and then James.
Yeah, West Magnolia Hub, Frank Gall.
And James, followed by Jim Durand.
James Williams, Capitol Hill.
Jim, followed by Melissa.
Jim Durand with co-captain at Finney Hub.
Okay. Melissa, followed by Patty.
Melissa from the U Heights Hub.
Yeah.
And Patty McKee from the Sandpoint Windermere Club.
Okay. And then next will be Andy Peck and then Ann Forrest.
Andy Peck, formerly Belltown. I'm living in Maple Valley now.
Ann, followed by Bill.
Ann Forrest, Victory Heights Hub.
Ooh, that was helpful, sticking your hand up. We knew which box to look at. Bill, followed by Dave Wilma.
This is Bill Fay from the Queen Anne Hub.
And Dave Wilma, followed by Erica.
Dave Wilma, Seattle ACS.
Erica, followed by, oh, Gabrielle, I couldn't read my writing. And then Louise will be the last one.
Yeah, I've got the background turned on, so it may or may not cause my hand to disappear. Erica Harnett from Highland Park Hub in West Seattle.
Okay, thank you. Gabrielle, Louise, and then Gina Hicks.
Gabrielle Gerhard, Windermere North Sandpoint Hub. Same as Pat.
Louise Laurelhurst Hub.
And then Gina.
Yeah, Gina, Capitol Hill or Braeburn Hub.
Cool. Okay, I can close my chat. I can. I've lost something there. Okay, so flipping it over. We're going to just jump right in. I'm not going to put the agenda up unless people really want it, because to me it's just easier to be able to see what, you know, who's talking and all that stuff. So we're going to do kind of like the news and status first. And I'll start off with the one concern. Erica, I'm glad I'm catching this before you have to leave. On December 1st, I'm going to do our first community meeting using the one concern information to brief community groups on potential damage from the new mapping tool that the city is using. And so because what we have in West Seattle is a group of community leaders that all meet, and then they go out to their individual community groups. It's a really super great opportunity to cover a lot of people at one time. And the focus of it is slightly different than a typical small community group, because I'll be talking to people saying, we're all community leaders. You are leaders of your groups. Your groups need to hear this message. So as a leader, what are some steps you can take to first be prepared to be a leader in a disaster? And second, you know, do you want me to come out and speak to your groups? So it's a little bit higher level than a typical presentation we might see. But I want I'm going to send a note out to the West Seattle Hub captains to sit in on that too, because this will be the first time we've presented this data to a community group. So the people who have been helping pull this concept together and get it to a real actual group presentation, we're really curious what the reaction is going to be. Are people going to go, are they going to think it's scare tactics, or are they going to believe it, or are they going to tune out because it's just so much? Because it so happens West Seattle is really significantly affected by a Seattle fault earthquake, and you know, it's kind of a scary picture. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I'll be recording that part of the meeting, not for distribution to everybody, but for our group to dissect later and see what we can do to improve the presentations for going out to other community groups. So just heads up, and Erica, you'll see the invite to that meeting come out. So, and then once I've done that, I will send the deck out to the hub captains. I really am holding it close because I just don't want it to get out where somebody forwards it to somebody who forwards it to somebody, and then it's taken out of context, you know, and posted on Facebook or something crazy like that. So I'm just playing it safe for a little bit. So you'll all get to see what we're doing. And I'm actually thinking what it might be is the second half of our deep dive next month. Patty from SDOT is going to come back and we'll finish with her, but that won't take a full hour. And so what I might do is just actually save it and do the whole presentation again for the hub captains. So any questions on that?
Yeah, Cindy?
Yep.
Yeah, as part of what you're going to have the leaders do, are they going to get back to you in some way, anecdotally or otherwise, with how their presentation to their groups was received once they go out and speak to them?
Yeah, I'm offering to go to their groups because,
Okay.
you know, this is the kind of stuff that you'd hate to hand it to someone and expect them to do
Right.
a thoughtful job. You know what I mean? I mean, they sort of got, everybody can sort of retain the top level stuff, but they couldn't answer questions. So it's an offer for me to go to their groups because I go to have their group meetings anyway for other preparedness stuff. And I meet these people every month. So I know who's invited me and who hasn't. So it'll be interesting to see.
So second question, is Deborah going to sit in on any of these?
Yes.
I thought
Yeah.
so, just checking, thank you.
Yeah, and also TJ McDonald, who is with the city, who is their point contact for One Concern. I invited him and he's got it on his calendar, so he hopefully will be
Great.
there too to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. The next one we've got is from our Double Trouble field exercise. We had such good after action dialogue, and we had 2 volunteers. Round of applause for the people who agreed to kind of forward the what shall we do with the, you know, observations we made. So I forgot which one of you wanted to go first, Melissa or Jim?
You didn't ask.
Well, you're unmuted, Jim, so you get to go first. So Jim
Okay.
is going to take the point on the volunteer specific stuff. So Jim, I'll let you give a brief where you're at.
So we're going to have some virtual workshops on refining or enhancing the volunteer coordinator job. And this is a result of things that were realized during the drill. I wrote down some questions that we want to answer. What is the best way to utilize neighbors who have unique skills, like a structural engineer, a vet, and things that there isn't a need for in the immediate? How is a need for helpers, warm bodies? Somebody needs help sweeping up glass, for example. How is that managed and tracked? And what is a good arrangement framework for interaction between and communication between the volunteer coordinator and the medical officer related to people that have medical skills? And then last, what triage rules might the greeter need to employ as a result of whatever comes out of the workshops? How is the greeter's job affected? And my thoughts, Cindy and Ann might have good ideas. I thought we'd have some Zoom sessions like brainstorming ideas, kind of refining things, and then virtually run through some scenarios using what we figure out and, what works, what doesn't, what did we not consider. And then finally, field testing it in person, going through some scenarios, just at not a big drill, but at somebody's hub, just to work through it and see what we learned there. So if you're interested in helping out or being involved, please put your name in the chat.
Jim, do you have a timeline for this or any thoughts?
Well, let's see. I have to consider the holiday schedule for myself, but I'm kind of ready to get started anytime, although maybe the first week of December might be a good time to have a first meeting.
Well, actually, what I was thinking is we could do it on the night of the deep dive. I mean, I don't have to give that one concern present. I was just looking to fill an hour. So you could use the deep dive date if you want. I know we got to bring Patty Quirk back for about a half an hour. So that's a possibility.
Are you saying with the interested group in lieu of the deep dive, or with the larger community initially?
Well, it depends. If you have a specific group and they all can't come on the deep dive date, then you take off and set your own thing. But what we could do is we could have the deep dive, and then anybody who's not interested in participating drop off after Patty.
Oh, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So we can talk afterwards, but if you're thinking 1st of December, or if it ends up you want to wait till January, I can definitely give you the date of January 11th, which is a deep dive with nothing planned in it.
And also, I figured we didn't necessarily have to line up with our existing schedule deep dives.
Well, what I find is, though, with the deep dive on the 2nd and the hub captain on this date, you add one more meeting in and it's 3 hub meetings for people in a month. So that's why I was like, I'll back up if you need it.
That's
so
fair.
We can talk more, but definitely if you're getting ready to go, people who are interested, put your name in the chat for Jim to have you come help play, you know, give some thought to how we can make, especially if you served in one of those in the volunteer role during the exercises, or better yet, if you were one of the citizen actors who got bounced around or, you know, not served well, you know, and have some ideas for improvement. That would be great. I'm going to break for a second. I see we got one more person who's came in. Pam, you want to come on and introduce yourself with what hub you're with? Oh, well, it's in your name, but.
Sure, absolutely. So this is Pam. I'm with the Meadowbrook Hub, and I was a little bit late this evening. Sorry about that, but it looks like everything's going well. Thank you for the agenda and all the information.
Thanks. I see a chat from Melissa before we get to her that says, can you put the thought questions? Oh, and so those 4 things that you just listed, I think she wants those in the chat.
Yep, I'm putting those in now.
Okay. Anything else you've got, Jim, or will we move to Melissa?
No, that was it.
And Melissa, I am so sorry. You had said you might want to do some poll questions, and then I forgot to follow up with you to get them pre-staged. So Melissa has offered to take the larger kind of some of our coordination issues in. So I'll let her talk about what she's thinking.
Yeah, thanks. So Margaret Sanders and I from the East Lake Hub, we have met and kind of started having some conversations around some of the issues. And this stems from Double Trouble. You know, there's obvious issue around, you know, does something go to volunteer, to resource, to info, to all of it, to none of it? Where does it go? And so that's kind of what we started talking about. And the first that's kind of come up that I would love some input on just from you all is the name resource manager, in that it's a little bit misleading and not necessarily super clear what we mean by resource manager. So thinking about, you know, should we rename it supplies manager or gear manager, like gear or supplies, because it's really about the things, right? Whereas the people resources are going to volunteer, and the information that needs to, you know, shelter, other hospital information, blocks, things like that goes to info manager. So thinking about renaming potentially the resource manager to be either gear or supplies. And I wanted to just take a quick little straw poll using the reactions actually. And I'm just going to be looking at the participant list. So if I'll call out one of them, and if you can do like the green button, if you want to, like the green check, if you would, if that would be your vote, and I can just count it up. If you if you're thinking how about gear manager?
So if you want gear manager, you want people to raise their hand.
So for gear manager, oh, are you all able to hear me okay?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
You were sort of looked frozen for
Broke
a
up a
minute,
little
but-
bit.
Okay.
Well, I think you were thinking.
But the eyes were blinking.
Yeah, yeah. You can tell it's not frozen if their eyes are moving.
Okay, Erica was okay. So so I'm looking for you all to use the reactions, not the raise your hand, but they have like the green check button or the
Oh,
red
yeah, I
X
see
or
it.
whatever.
Okay,
I want you all to use the green check.
so we're gonna
And,
get to vote on what are our three choices, or what are our choices?
Yeah, sorry about that, Erica, that it keeps cutting out for you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's me
Yeah.
or if it's if I'm the only one having audio cut out, then it must just be me.
No,
It
her
is.
audio is breaking up for me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Everybody.
Can
Kinda
you put a
sporadic.
poll on
Okay.
Zoom? I think Zoom supports polls, right?
but you have to have them created ahead of time, and that's what Melissa and
Okay.
I were talking about doing,
Okay.
and then we never got it
How
done.
about now? How about now? Is that a little bit better?
Yeah.
Yeah, you sound fine now.
Okay, great. Sorry, I had my headphones in because my child is watching TV in the same room. So multitasking. So I'm gonna just start over because I don't know how much you all heard. But this kind of stems from the larger conversation from Double Trouble around what goes where. Like when they come to the greeter, should they go to the information manager? Should they go to the volunteer coordinator? Should they go to the info manager? And one of the things that Margaret Sanders and I from the East Lake Hub identified was that, you know, the resource manager name is a little bit misleading because it could be everything, but we really don't want it to be everything. So we talked about renaming it supplies manager or gear manager so that it's more clear that the things go to the now resource manager versus the people go to the volunteer coordinator versus the information goes obviously the information manager. So I would love to just get like we're going to do a deeper dive just like Jim talked about for this as well, but I wanted to get an initial thought from you all around renaming it. So if you all could use the green checks just to let me know your initial thoughts on it, and as I just call them out. So if, you know, between those three options, gear manager, supplies manager, and or keeping with resource manager, if you could do a green check if you like supplies manager. Great. Okay, great. How about, and then you can take your green check down. And how about gear manager? Great. And then who would like to keep it? Who thinks we should keep it resource manager?
Patty, take your vote down.
How do you do that? Click it again?
Yep.
I think so, yeah.
And Dave
So-
Wilma was a big X.
So if you're up right now, you want to keep it resource manager.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is Gabrielle. I would worry that if we had the word supplies, people would think they could get that we had something. Resource is a little more amorphous, but I'm not opposed to either of the other choices, but I just wonder if the words carry a different weight. Like if the word supply is like, oh, look, there's all that water over there, but there is no water over there. You know?
I had a hard time understanding why there was even the question. And then if you actually go to the dictionary, like Melissa made me do, you know, from the conversation, resource can mean humans and things.
Yeah,
Right?
no, that part I get, and that
Yeah.
part makes perfect sense of of clarifying it. I just wouldn't want to use a word that made people think they were going to get something. Yeah.
I
mean, I think with the hubs, like people always think we have supplies. That's like the first thing that everyone thinks. I think if you see a canopy with people after a disaster, you're going to go and ask for supplies. And so, but like when you talk about supplies manager, we do want people to come and say like, I need water. And you'd be like, okay, great. We'll see if anyone has water to match with you, or have an as an information manager, have anyone that knows where we can get water, right? So I don't know, to me, I think, it could help with understanding where to send people, but it's just an initial kind of thought around it. And then we'll do a deeper dive to like talk through kind of some of the thoughts that Margaret and I had around it as well.
I think the good thing about this dialogue is that one day one of us will come up with the exact right word. There's a word out there, we just aren't coming up with it right now, but that takes it away from the broader category and makes it, away from the expectation of, where are my handout supplies versus what are the things that, we can connect you with.
Yeah, and somebody might have like extra tents or tarps or blankets, or it would be helpful to discriminate between physical supplies and human skills. And that's what was very confusing. Even if it was in the similar tent, the left side is the physical supplies and the right side is the people resource, or
yeah, it's probably a foreign language word. I see Pam with her hand up. Pam?
I do that.
And unmute.
No? Gotcha. So what I think about that particular process or station is that it's not really supplies or gear or resources. It's connecting available resources, gear, or supplies. So it's really about connections. You go there not to receive anything, but you go there to connect with someone else on a need and want. Isn't that more what we're looking for here?
Yeah, but we're looking for the word that describes the non-people things. Okay, it could be the things manager. I see Frank with his hand up.
Things manager.
Well, because I don't know how to put the actual yellow hand up, but it strikes me, resources inanimate, and because supplies can be replenished. I think of supplies, I think of water, toilet paper, etc. And a lot of times people are bringing in equipment or services.
They have a chainsaw. Yeah.
Exactly. It's either a service they can provide or a piece of equipment they can provide, because we've already said we're not going to stockpile toilet paper and water and things like that. So, thank you.
Melissa, you want to bring us around to the end? I mean, tons of good discussion.
Yeah.
You need a deep dive.
Yes, exactly why we want to do a deep dive. I also don't know that we will have consensus, throughout the hubs. So I think it's about what larger umbrella can we have that can then be, tailored by each hub that's still within this larger structure. So I think it's looking at like what structure would work for all the hubs. And then, if you need to do something that's more detailed for your hub, you can always do that. So we will do a deeper dive on that and keep having conversations around this fun one.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Our next topic is Anne talking about the Teachable Moment Work Group.
I wish I had more to report. We started talking about it. It's a difficult topic because not every community is in the same spot. Not everybody's as prepared, as poorly prepared. Some people would like to go to their hub. Other people would like to go to the local grocery store. Is there really time? Is there any interest in somebody talking? So if they stop to talk to us, then other people are going into the store and grabbing the supplies, and they're going to feel anxious that they're not in there buying what they feel like they need. So it was very difficult to find one answer that seemed to fit with everybody. We tried to coordinate with the city to make it kind of a consistent message, and that didn't really happen. So I am tapped out on many projects at the moment. And if somebody would like to take this on, either with me or without me, I would be happy to play advisor, consultant, or something like that. I don't have the energy for this project, and B, we just couldn't come up with a solution that we thought would be good for everybody.
So let me clarify. So the teachable moment was really around, there was an earthquake somewhere, a real kind of like get everybody's attention. And it was very earthquake focused. It was not broader, like we have a teachable moment actually right now with the flooding, but it's not as urgent where we would actually show up at grocery stores to say, hey, reminder, we just had a close one, so it was really a narrow focus, not a broad, here's a moment of teachability.
Yeah, it was a 4.2 earthquake that shakes everybody up, and everybody wakes up for 20 minutes and starts to get prepared. How can we take advantage of that?
Is there anybody who'd like to take that on from Ann Bond? You want to take that on? Or was that I want to unmute and say something?
I'd love to do it with others.
Okay.
Yes, I think that's, I even have thoughts around, waiting for a teachable moment seems challenging. And I hear what you're saying, Anne. It's, there's a lot of pressure around what's the one takeaway or what's the really important takeaway from an event. And one of the things that we sure experienced doing some of our tiny little outreach events this summer was that people were attaching to so many things that happened in the last year, whether it was the smoke or the heat dome or the pandemic or anything else, where they said, man, there have been so many times in the last year I would never have believed that I'd be thinking about these things, but now I really am. So where's the hub? Like, they were all really interested in knowing where the hub was. So it seems like even if we're not leveraging a particular event like an earthquake, if we only revisit things that happened in the last year, that seems like it'd be of value to me, and we can create some messaging around that. What did you think when the heat dome happened, or when the smoke happened, or when the pandemic struck, or whatever else it was, when you saw the flooding up in the Skagit Valley? I think we could maybe work up some messages that are very succinct around that and just use them, share. It sounds like it's overlapping with this other project that you were referencing in a recent email. I can't remember if it was you, Cindy, or you, Anne. Someone was saying, can we come up with some common messages to share amongst hubs?
Mm-hmm.
But are they close to the same thing?
Very similar. The sharing messages was more of a, what can I put out to my email list monthly? Just helping them prepare and stay energized. And yeah, so similar, but more once a month kind of
So
thing.
who is the audience for teachable moments?
The audience for both events would be anybody that you can reach, whether it's standing in front of a grocery store. So anybody in your community. It's not educated folks that know about preparedness. It's just anybody you can reach.
So if there's an earthquake, what you want to do is jump into action and have the teachable moment in the few days thereafter. Yeah.
Because if we send it out to our existing list, we're only just preaching to the choir in the most cases. This is the opportunity you've got the attention of people who typically aren't within our normal span of communications. That's why the reference to go down, stand at the grocery store, or go down to the park your hub is at and hand out flyers for a couple hours.
I like the idea of using that, a minor disaster, something we're not really needed for, but if I'm not doing something else, if I can step away, as an opportunity to practice setting up and go to the hub and get stuff set up. And I did that for the shakeout and got a lot of interest from people passing by. And I felt it was a good opportunity to test the gear, just practice getting it in and out, repacking it.
That's kind of a good way to think about it, is you have a minor disaster and you go down to your local hub and you just set it up. And when people come by, you go, because that's my signal to go practice. I'm not activating. We would only activate in the big, power out, but it's my signal to keep my muscle memory, which starts a very good conversation with people. So
that is a good idea.
Yeah,
I like that.
Really good idea.
So Matt, you want to work? No, so I got Ann and Ann working together. Matt's got some ideas.
It's all my spare time. Yeah.
Yep.
I kind of like that idea better of just, if there's a minor earthquake, set up your hub and
or
talk to
power
them
outage
about
or
hubs. Yeah.
like
Instead
that.
of trying to find the one preparedness message that would that's applicable to everybody. The one message we all have in common is we're all involved in the hub. So make that the message.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Monroe earthquake that we had, what, year and a half ago, that would have been ideal because everybody knew about it. It was a wake-up call. And you can ask people, what if it had been worse?
Right.
That's
I love
actually,
that.
I like that too. I like the message to all the hub captains, because there's 60 something of us, is to say, within a week of one of those kinds of lots of attention earthquakes, go set up your hub. Even if you had to do it at a weird time and you weren't expecting people to come by, that's a good practice for us, because a lot of us don't set up for 2 or 3 years in a row because we just don't happen to be one of the activating hubs. So I'll work with you guys to develop that as regular messaging for the hubs. So, all right, I'll let the two of you continue to find, work that. Anything else, Ann?
No, thank you. I'm energized again. Genius ideas.
The sheltering guide, I sent out the pandemic one. It was completed. The sheltering guide's actually been completed for about 3 weeks, but we have so many activities. I try not to flood you with messages. So I will finish putting it in the Google Drive. And so it's ready, and I'll give you instructions, but it's ready for you to download, ready for you to take to any partners that you would like to, start to engage in this discussion. We had a couple of interesting people preview it. We had a bowling alley guy read it. We had the Salvation Army guy read it. The American Legion guy read it. A person who represents an interfaith network. And I think the College Club in Eastlake read it. And so we got comments back from them, and they're all like, yeah, no, it makes sense, kind of worrisome, but yes, it makes sense. And we created a cover letter that you can put on the front of it and deliver it to people that says, here's why I'm giving this to you, think about maybe what you could do as service to your community. So that'll come out pretty soon, but thank you to everyone who worked on that committee, and I'll recognize them in that email too. So just to let you know that it is done. And then the last topic I have kind of under our, broader umbrellas is getting ready to do outreach in 2022. We had kind of hoped that COVID was going to let us do a little bit more than we did, but we actually pulled off some really cool things. There was a couple of us who did some outreach, individual events. We had 2 urban survival skills fairs, kind of like the big one out at Maple Leaf, and we had another one at University Heights. So we managed to get those in. So that was really good. What is it everybody would like to do in 2022? The sooner we get ahead of that and can deal with printing costs or helping organize costs or reservations costs, that would be good to know about ahead of time. So has anybody got something they've got in line already? I know it's not even Christmas and I'm talking about 2022. So that's got to be a big topic before we get to March, because that's when things really will, if COVID finishes off, things will cook up and we'll end up with people trying to book on the same weekends and stuff like that. So no ideas, no requests off the top.
Pauline at Greenwood Hub and I and Ann were talking about a Hub 101 class in November, I guess we were looking at, and then we decided to cancel it because of you know, COVID logistics and not being able to do it outside. But I think we'd like to revisit that effort.
And doing it online.
So you do it online, not in person, and then that way you could do it in the winter.
Yeah. I'm meeting with groups in my community this weekend, and I am committed to doing something in April and October. I don't know what those events are going to be, but I'm thinking it's the only way to truly build a culture of preparedness is consistent twice a year doing something. You know, once every 3 years or whatever is just not cutting it.
Is that for Victory Heights or is that for Northeast?
Victory Heights.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of a group is it in?
Oh, these are just interested folks in my community, but I'm looking at either an urban survival skills fair, however big or small, I don't care, just something, and or a drill. So I'll probably just alternate one of each.
Yeah, we have
But
enough.
I've got to get it on the calendar and scheduled and make it a consistent thing for the community, or it'll never, I don't think it'll grow unless I keep doing it consistently.
Yeah, I don't see anyone from Madison here, but they did a little mini drill and it was great. I mean, we had to do very little in setup. I mean, it was really take all the stuff from Double Trouble that we had just done. It's all sitting there ready to go. And they just, all they had to do was advertise and get people to show up. And just like Double Trouble, you know, like get 3 or 4 people pre-assigned to positions and they went. And it was really fun for them. That was their first ever exercise. So low barrier participation. Frank?
Thanks, Ann. You just gave me an idea here because Paula Mueller, I think I mentioned it a while ago, put a urban skills fair up on Queen Anne. She's now the QACC president up there. So it might be something Bill and I can talk about to see if she's going to repeat it there and do some connection with the Magnolia Community Council, because we got to get them up and out and doing something. So I don't know whether Bill wants to speak to this now or not, but I'll chat with him later and Paula and see, because I completely agree with you. Something at least once a year, even if you alternate it, or maybe even twice a year, but you can't go dormant too long and have anybody still in line to pay attention. Yep. So
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Melissa, you mentioned a Easter egg, urban survival Easter egg hunt. Have you put much thought into that? What is that? What would that look like?
Sorry. Okay. I have not. You know, I love my holidays and piggybacking onto the farmers market and the holidays. And I feel like there's potential to do something around like little, you know, urban survival facts wrapped up with something in an Easter egg, you know, like little things like that. But I also think, you know, they have that grass and then, you know, like the tables that we had set up. So I feel like there's a way that we could combine that holiday with an urban survival fair. I'm still marinating on it, but I want to do a springtime thing because I just, you know, we did like the kind of cold weather ones. I'd love to do one where there's more people around and everything. So that's been in my brain right now.
That sounds really creative.
Yeah.
The Homer Harris people, they did one that was really, it felt really off the wall, but for their grand opening, you know, to say we're now a hub, even though they didn't have their box in place, they did zucchini races. So when the farmer's market gets, you know, to its bumper crop of zucchini, they had a really clever way of connecting zucchini race into preparedness. I don't know how they did it, but yeah, it was hilarious.
Yeah. We're desperate to have personal contact. And I think we're talking about the same thing you're talking about is we need to ignite. And so we've been thinking of something along a scavenger hunt food truck kind of a thing. And the scavenger hunt has to do with disaster information or coming upon a set up scenario and saying, what would you do? As you said, Melissa, we're marinating, but something that's human, human contact. And also, I think probably minimal investment in equipment and maximal investment in activity opportunity. So the intimidation factor when we come back on isn't too much of a whoa-wah, but rather, look, here's where we are and let's go forward. And so we're thinking about it. Let me put it that way.
Nice.
Great marinations. I'll put a thing on the next agenda. What did you marinate on over the last few weeks?
Who has pickles?
I have pickles, tomatoes. Okay, so Louise, you might as well not unmute because you're next on the agenda. You wanted to do a little round robin, and after Louise, I'm going to jump to see if Erica has anything before she has to drop off. So Louise, you want to talk about what your hub is looking for advice on?
Yeah. This past year in the pandemic, the main contact we had with our community was in information on COVID and some kind of, hi, how are you doing? Internet communication. But in the interim of that, our group that's working as a steering committee set up a responder class, and we trained about 8 people in the neighborhood to respond to a drill and to know the various roles to play. And then we had an enactment on site and went through that. And as a result of that, one of the things that's perked to the top is how do you get to the hub? How do you know who's going to be at the hub? How do you organize the hub? Do you have anything pre-organized, or you truly just come and say, okay, you're going to be, you're going to be, you're going to be? And I think many in the group feel more comfortable with some kind of a structure. And I didn't know if any of the rest of you have had time to think about that or thought about it, or if it's marinating in your heads as well. But I figured these would be the best brains to pick for any input on that. So, and I can also put my email address in the chat if something comes to mind, if that's helpful, if something comes to mind. If that's not helpful, I'm fine with that too.
Well, let's have a little bit of dialogue so everybody gets on the same page with what you're asking for.
Okay.
Any thoughts for her so far?
Well, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Louise.
I found it hard to understand at first too. So I asked one of the fellows whose idea this was to elaborate a little bit. And he said he wondered if you would have a list of people who would be willing to come to the hub, and then that you would have a list of jobs available and people could sign up for the jobs they would like to have. And then somehow you indicate that you're coming to the hub, whether it be GMRS or bike or Paul Revere running, I don't know. And then to have a stacking plan of how those jobs rotate, how long you stay at a job and what job you might go to next, or if that's too much planning.
Louise, I took the quick start guide, which is pretty generic, and I made it really specific for our hub. And it literally is a step-by-step, do this number 1, do this number 2. And
Right.
For our hub, and when I've set up hubs before with other people, because all the small boxes are on top, people that don't know what they're doing or just want to be helpful, take those little boxes out and they start opening them up and they start trying to divvy stuff out. So one of the things the quick start guide says is put every small box on the ground and put up the hardscape first. And I have a blueprint where I think things will go. It may not turn out that way, but at least it's a starting point. And I have a couple of those maps, so you can spread them out and folks will understand it. So I'm happy to share that. It needs a little bit of work because I learned a lot through our September drills. So I'll be happy to send that out and plagiarize, and make it so that it helps you. One of the things I have is a list of all the jobs, and like next to greeter, I have this ought to be the social butterfly in your community. Right. And based on our drill, I don't know that that's really who you want. It's not the social butterfly, it's the person that really understands the hub and what all the different tents do. So I'm tweaking a lot of that stuff, but I think you're right when you're saying I want to pre-plan all these jobs. I don't think it's worth it, in my opinion. I don't think it's worth it to go to that trouble, because people are going to show up randomly, and yeah. And I think how it's going to work is, as soon as you arrive at the hub, you're not going to be there long by yourself, because if you can get there, other people can get there. And I think that's just what they're going to do.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think your quick start is great. And I am trying to adapt that to our hub. I think the hope was to have a maybe very, very detailed map. And one of my comments at that time was, we have to remember to stay adaptable and to not have it so planned that we freeze because the problem isn't covered. And but I need to take the feedback. I needed to respect the need and to take the information back. And so that's very helpful to share that seems to be where people kind of are, is in that thinking.
The value, and there's some old quote from Dwight Eisenhower about the value is not in the plan, it's in the planning. So you can go through many of those steps to create that framework, but the really specific details, like where's Mary Margaret at 9:15, that you can't plan on. And even if you think you're going to assign people to 3-hour shifts, you'll have your best person come and say, I can only be here an hour and a half. Right.
Yeah.
And so if you have boxed yourself into it all has to fit like this, like you said, you've lost your flexibility. But walking through all that makes those people who really, really, really desire the detailed plan, it gets it set in their mind what they want to do, but can build in that buffer so that they don't freak out at when a plan goes a little haywire. Frank?
Yeah, it was the thing that comes to mind too is don't tell them how to do it, and tell them what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And if they have the equipment there and some kind of quick start guide with it, they'll be able to figure it out.
And everybody's different, but my takeaway from many of the fire stories that I watched over handling fires was every single department said they planned and planned and planned, and not one plan worked. Because the fire acted totally differently. And so their takeaway was exactly what you said, Cindy. Practice and think about it, but you can't begin to create a structure.
Yeah. I mean, you can do the framework, but you can't get really super detailed, that's for sure.
Actually,
well, you have to remember that when you do the planning, you're planning with the same people who are going to respond, and with the high number of emergent volunteers we're going to get, part of the planning has to be how to get them adaptable to the situation so they understand what the overall intent of the resource manager is, because you're not going to have time for a 15-minute explanation.
Yeah. But I like the activity of planning is the takeaway and not so much the plan. I think that's a great piece of information. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
There it is. I knew someone had a comment. Melissa, I see your hand.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Louise, for that as well. I think a conversation you can have when you have people involved that are feeling like they need more structure is, what is your concern? Like, what about, there's some desire behind wanting to have that list of people and that super structure. So trying to identify from that person, like, tell me more about why you think that would be helpful, or what your concern is if we don't have that, right? So that you can kind of help get at the underlying worry or anxiety or frustration that's going on. And that might be the way to take the conversation, to kind of learn more about what they're worried about.
That's a great tip. I really appreciate that one too. Thanks. That's all good information. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Pam Bowie with 3-minute warning gave me a hard stop, so I didn't get a chance to catch her and say, did you have anything you wanted to cover? So I'm going to catch Erica while we're in a break. Erica, did you have anything for around the room? And the icebreaker question is really, from what you've seen about the fire stuff, anything that's a takeaway that you're thinking about?
Fires or flooding?
The flooding.
Okay, because you said fire, so I wasn't sure.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, the flooding. I haven't watched a lot of the news other than the surprise that roadways that you think are fairly robust because they're freeways were actually not as robust as people thought. So seeing that basically Vancouver is cut off from the rest of Canada because the Trans-Canada is washed out in multiple places was sort of my real surprise. Is just how it doesn't take a lot to cut off a very major city from the rest of the country. So that's probably my aha moment from the flooding we've been seeing. And no, I don't have anything for around the room.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, so hang on. Okay, so I have on the thing, the leadership retreat, and really what I'm hoping to get out of this tonight, there's many people who have not experienced one of those because we haven't had one for 2 years. Those are our opportunity. Every 2 years we get together for a retreat, you know, kind of, oh, please let us do this in person this year. So, you know, I'm kind of shooting for late February or March to get past COVID. And we get together and we kind of go, this is what we got done the past 2 years. Where do we want to go the next 2 years? And it helps us focus, you know, maybe what we didn't get done in outreach or didn't get done in skills training or in group development or, you know, all those things. And part of the urgency with why I am going to make sure we have one this coming year is because we're down to my last 2 years of working, you know, as a facilitator for the Hub network. You got an extra year out of me because of COVID. But so next year I want to not run these meetings. I need to step back and but it's only, don't forget, it's only 6 meetings a year, right? I'll still do all the deep dives and I've got a lot of other stuff I'll keep doing. But if I can keep stepping back, you know, it helps the transition. So, but you know, that's just a part of it. And then, so I'm looking for kind of like, does anybody have any dates I should avoid suggesting? Because we get to go through that gruesome process of doodle poll. You know, and typically we do, you know, 4 hours on a Saturday. So I already know we can't do the second Saturday in March, but I'm kind of thinking about the first Saturday, the 5th or the 19th of March. Anybody got any ham? Usually it's the ham people who go, oh no, that's some big chilly pilly exercise or something.
I might be, this is Gabrielle, I might be away the 19th. It's super tentative, but most likely I would be here the earlier date.
Yeah, you know, I even though like we do the same thing with Double Trouble, you know, people tell me I'll be there and then 2 weeks beforehand I get the no, I decided to do something else. So I'm just looking for the, don't do it on Easter weekend or something stupid like that, you know, so. All right.
I guess from my standpoint is I work Saturday mornings.
Oh,
and so
there's
things that, yeah, like I work at the tool library until noon on Saturdays. So Saturday mornings are always bad for me. And that's where a lot of things get scheduled. So
how about Saturday afternoons for people? I mean, Saturday is, you know, sometimes that is a working day, but knowing to avoid the morning, that's a good piece of advice. I don't mind doing the afternoon. We could actually start drinking at the end of the meeting.
Those dates are good for me.
Say again, Matt?
Either the 5th or the 19th are good for me.
Okay,
Anytime.
in the afternoon. Okay, I'm going to send out a doodle poll. Thank you, Gina. I'll make them in the afternoons. We'll just plan for that, see what we can do. Oh yeah, and I'm getting comments like, I like sleeping in, so good. another vote for an afternoon. But anyway, that's a really important meeting. It builds a lot of institutional knowledge with everybody because we understand why we're moving in a certain direction and helps build continuity for everybody. Good training for all the new hub captains for sure. So I have one topic I have to work ahead of that leadership. We did our GoFundMe to raise money to pay for the website administration and stuff like that. The one thing I didn't account for was that on our website, which still chugs along, our volunteer webmaster has gone in a couple of times and cleaned up some technical issues, but the plugin she used for our web forms so that people could register that they're a Snap group or a Blockwatch group or a new hub, they were free and that person has pulled the plugins. So she's found a replacement. It'll cost us $59 a year to use these new plugins. That's a minimal expense. And I think we're not going to change anything about the website itself for a couple of years. So I'm comfortable going ahead, but I'm kind of looking for anybody got a reason why we shouldn't do that, just so that the website can gimp along for a little longer. Yeah, thumbs up. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Sorry, what does the plugins mean, Cindy?
So the plugin is specific to if we have our interactive map. And so to give me permission to put people's public information or their contact information on a public facing map, we have a form where they give permission and they say they're not a spam robot, and so that's the plugin we need to replace.
Do you manually enter the data onto the map after they granted permission?
Right now, yes.
Okay, I'd be happy to share my DocuSign Power Form with that. I have an unlimited account, and I can create a legal form that they can fill out, and every time they do, it'll submit it to a spreadsheet. You can get that information.
I'll have you talk with Patricia because she does plugins. Whatever you're suggesting, I don't know how to equate that to what she's doing. But the website is kind of okay because she has come back and been more active about cleaning up some of the glitches we had. It's the email account that's still kind of our issue. And last month I had about 18 bounces because, I sent out an email with a lot of links and 18 people's emails thought I was spam and they all bounced. So
I'm happy to revisit that.
Yeah, I've given up on that because I couldn't get the sub team moving forward on that. So separate issue. That's part of the leadership retreat. It'll hold together until the leadership retreat. So for the answer for the plugin, I'll have Patricia talk to you, Matt.
All right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. If not, I'll go ahead and plug her into saying go ahead and do that. And then the last thing I've got before we get to around the room, good, we're really good ahead of schedule, is Ann and I, there's been a couple of these projects that float around for years, and all of a sudden sometimes something comes up that makes them very, like, hey, maybe this one will move forward. And in this case, it is the question of the Red Cross's Safe and Well website. And so we've always wondered, how is the Red Cross going to do the Safe and Well website when the internet is down and electricity is down and computers don't work? What are they thinking in a disaster zone? How do people register that they're safe and well? So we got a hold of the regional contact for the reunification team. So we started a dialogue with her. We're going to involve the ACS team because their answer is generally ham radio operators will be the people we depend on to get the information into our website. And we contacted her last week and didn't hear anything until yesterday when she said, I'm doing 32-hour shifts at the Red Cross shelter up in Whatcom County because that's where she's assigned. And I went, my timing was bad. We did not mean for this to come right on top of the rain. So that one will be moving forward, and we'll probably form a small sub team to work on, how will we take what seems to be a very notional vision on the part of Red Cross and turn it into real concrete actions that we can take in a disaster here. So, Anne, anything you want to add on that?
No, but does everybody understand what the Safe and Well website is?
No, not really.
Okay, good. Couple no's. Go ahead, Ann.
So it's a website where you if you're in a disaster area, the Red Cross pops up this website where you can click on and say, hi, I'm alive. And it just marks you as having checked in. So you're well enough to, to have clicked on a computer website. So folks, in Atlanta, Georgia can check on you in the disaster area, know that you're alive. So it's a way to communicate with the outside world that you're okay. And also possibly, if your partner is in Renton and you're in, Marysville or whatever, you might be able to, you can't communicate, but you at least know that they're alive. So you're just marking yourself as safe and well.
Do you have to register in advance?
No.
That's the Red Cross version. There's a Google version as well too, and I forget what it's called.
But in order for your family or friends in Atlanta, Georgia to look you up, they have to know a pretty significant amount of information about you. Your full name, they have to spell it correctly. They have to know something else like what's your address or what's your phone number or something. So it's fairly specific, but it works in disasters everywhere. We're just trying to figure out how to make it work here in the Pacific Northwest without, if the internet's down.
Most of the places they use this are in flood zones where they have power, so that's that. Yeah, she was kind of like doing the because she really hadn't gotten all that way down because she understands how it works on the East Coast, So stay tuned for that. I just wanted to put it out there. And then the other meeting Ann and I had was with the Seattle Fire Department. We were following up from their exercise of last year about what can we do to further dialogue with Seattle Fire Department, learning more about what they do in their exercises and what we could do and how we work together. So that'll probably come more to fruition next year too. So then I think that's all I had until we get to around the room. Does anybody have anything that they want to bring up that is general in nature, sharing? If not, we'll go to around the room.
I just want to put in another plug for my volunteer workshop.
I see it in the chat there. Yep. So please put your name in chat. He needs people
to spur your contributions and ideas. Something that's being considered is using a services needed board. I need bodies and the volunteer coordinator could fill those with volunteers they have on hand. And also the introduction of an on-call list for people that have unique skills. So that gets your thoughts going. Put your name in the chat.
And Jim, can I ask you, separate from the minutes, to take your forethought questions and kind of like your little sales pitch you just did, send that out separately to the hub captains, saying request for, members to help me.
I was planning to do that.
Okay. Did somebody else say something? I'm sorry.
So you can send it on Slack too. Create a Slack channel for those ideas.
Yep. Jim, are you on Slack?
No, I'm not. I'm not a slacker.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that Slack's been used by some of the team, but a certain dynamic or a certain demographic tends to lurk over there. So at least I know sending it out to hub captains will get it everywhere.
Yeah.
So around the room. So we have a Melissa. Yes, we do have a Slack channel. So Matt, you need to invite Melissa.
Sure.
Yep. Matt is our official Slack master. Dragged us kicking and screaming into the 21st century.
I'll throw another link to join the space into the chat.
Yep. So those of you, so Jim, you can copy that Slack thingy, and I just changed phones, so I guess I'll have to have somebody send me a Slack thing so I learn what my wake up, it's a Slack message sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go on to the around the room. I want to start. I already covered what I'm doing in West Seattle with the one concern thing, but I was watching the news tonight. This is my aha moment. So they've gotten to where, the floods are coming down and people are coming together. The volunteers are really starting to show up in droves and help. And so they had a couple of shots of the piles of crap that have appeared to be distributed. And literally, I mean, what are we, day 2 after the, like day 1 after the waters are all, really going down. And they were showing donations at the food bank that were clothing kind of related. And so they were talking to someone, and in the background were these giant mounds of stuff. And they already announced that because they have so much stuff, they're moving it to a single location at the fairgrounds. So it's gotten to be so big, so fast that they're moving it to the fairgrounds. So, like it just reinforces my, do not let them bring stuff to the hub unless you can control it. So it'll be interesting to find out, were they putting out the call for the stuff, which entirely may be legit, all these families who had to flee their houses, have no clothes on their back, and they put the call out and they're getting it. There'll be some after action reviews that come out of this, so I'll be watching for those. So around the room, let's do sectors again. Let's do Northwest sector. And Anne, can you manage it for a second? I got to go do a family thing for just a sec here.
Sure. Northwest sector, anybody?
So this is Jim from Finney. Regarding the flood, my sister and her husband live on Fur Island and Mount Vernon. And for those that don't know what Fur Island is, where the Skagit River comes down, it forks running into the Sound, and that triangle in the middle is called Fur Island, and it's surrounded by dikes. And in 1990, that's when the I-90 floating bridge sank. The Skagit River came down and it didn't fork, it just went straight through and flooded Fur Island. And all those very efficient dikes held all the water in. So my sister and her husband went to New York. They had a pre-planned trip to New York, and they knew the prediction for all the rain and thought, well, you never know. And they put their car keys with them labeled on their kitchen counter, plus like the key to their riding lawnmower, so that if they needed to, they had friends that could come take care of these things, but they had their car keys there so that they could, move them to high ground. But that's my takeaway.
Nice. Cindy, are you back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now we had to set what's going on for Thanksgiving. So sorry, it was like my phone's been going off like crazy. Others from Northwest. Okay, Northeast.
There's quite a few of us, but
yeah, and you sent your minutes out, and that was good. I like that shopping list, and I think I'm going to include that in the newsletter that goes out to everybody.
Give me just a minute on that gift list. It was different categories of stuff you could buy folks for. What I forgot to add was some blurb at the bottom saying this is sponsored by your local community emergency communication hub. So just a little plug for We Are the Hubs. So yeah, that's headed out. There is a series of classes coming in January. For those of you that haven't alerted your communities, they're free. They're every Wednesday night. This will be a 7-week series, 2 topics a night. It's half an hour, really, really quick. And it's on Zoom, and whoever wants to come is more than welcome. That's one thing. Oh, I was thinking I had something else. I don't. That's it for Victory Heights.
Yeah, Melissa just dropped off. You want to give a quick report out from the skills fair?
Oh yeah, so we did a Halloween skills fair. Everybody that worked the skills fair was dressed up in some sort of costume. Pretty good attendance. We Melissa timed it with the University farmers market. So we had kind of a steady stream of customers. It wasn't super busy, but we always pretty much had somebody around. It went really well. We gave out candy because it's Halloween. Yeah, had a decent turnout, and really in the grand scheme of things, not that much work. I think we ran a little, it was 4 hours. I think that in the future, I think I will suggest a 3-hour skills fair. 4 hours was a little bit too much, especially because we weren't that busy. But it was a lot of fun and pretty easy to do. And Melissa got quite a few names of people that are interested in her hub. And there was actually quite a few people that I would say the bulk of the people we talked to weren't even from the area. They come in for the farmers market, but very successful. And I'm kind of excited to see what she can do with Easter.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, anybody else from Northeast?
This is Gabrielle. I was at the Skills Fair, and yeah, it was great fun. I'm just thinking as you said that, and I know we were giving people information about hubs, but I don't know if we had a map there. I can't remember. Did we have a big map we could point to people? Okay, we did.
Yeah, Melissa had
Yeah.
it back there kind of by her table. Yeah.
And
Okay.
people were interested when we talked to them. So yeah, I don't have anything particular to report from
Okay.
our hub.
Central West.
Okay, I'll start and then I'll give it over to Frank. Really, we're on high ground here, so I don't have any particular flooding issues. Though sometimes we lose power, which is another event all in itself. But recently I got 2 minutes in front of the Queen Anne Community Council, and that's because I work with the Safety Committee. It's a subcommittee of the Queen Anne Community Council. So I got a good 2 minutes to plug hubs and the need for volunteers and the existence of hubs and all that. And so that's pretty good. But now I'll pass it over to Frank. He's been doing some other things over there with the Magnolia people.
Yeah, we made Catherine Middleton Hardy and I made a Zoom presentation to about 15 or 20 members of the Magnolia Community Council. They gave us, say 25 minutes. And we found one of the members with whom we're going to, excuse me, connect over coffee. He's interested. Anything deeper than that, not much so far. A number of the members were grateful that we made a presentation. So we'll see where it goes. We'll see what the interest is. But on the way to prepare for that, we ran into a document from SDOT dated November 10th, 2017, when Larry Eichhorn was the head of it. And it's titled Magnolia Neighborhood Emergency Bridge Closure Transportation Plan. And preparedness groups or hubs are mentioned twice in there, once under goals, immediate goals, and once under once stabilized goals, referring actually to MEQA volunteers. So it's just something to share with everybody else because SDOT's getting the transportation back up. It'd be interesting to see if they have any other documents specific to other neighborhoods. And it turns out that Patty Quirk has the same job title as Larry Eichhorn did. So I'm going to tomorrow send her an email just to see if this document is still in the order, see if it's got any currency, et cetera. And also, does a document like this exist for any other neighborhoods in Seattle? I don't know, ones that may have a lot of bridges, Ravenna, for example. So I'll get back to you guys and see if there's anybody else out there where we are mentioned almost by name.
Well, what is the context of that? Because is it, if the bridge goes out in a disaster? Because like the West Seattle Bridge went out and the hubs over here didn't do anything, it was just like, okay, you just don't drive around the bridge. So are you in context of normal operations, a normal day?
No, it's in guide the movement of people and goods between the Magnolia neighborhood and 15th Avenue corridor after a catastrophic event damaging one or all of the bridges serving Magnolia. We have 4, total of 12 lanes. And they dump into an area subject to liquefaction and inundation.
Well, I know, but what is when they reference the hubs, what did they say about the hubs? People should go to the hubs?
No, what they're saying is they're coordinating with neighborhood emergency preparedness teams, feedback about route blockages under number 1. And we've spoken about that before in some of our meetings, that we contribute that to them. And open 1 or more transportation hubs east and west of the railroad tracks at locations coordinated with MEQA volunteers, end quote.
Oh,
So
okay,
the
so,
reason I'm sharing this is new to me. I was in Catherine's files someplace. She brought it up. And some of the people in the council, there's some part in here too about ferrying people out of Magnolia, using ferry boats to get people out of Magnolia. I have no idea what that's about yet. But the point is, we're mentioned on a government document as participants in the post-event response.
Yep.
So I share that with you other guys. That's all.
excellent. That's good to know. We are definitely throughout the city's emergency plans now, at the
Right,
higher level.
right,
That's the first time I've heard of it as a, unique neighborhood level. So cool, very cool, Frank. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
So nobody else from Central West. How about Central East? That would be Gina. Anybody else?
And Vaughn.
Yeah, I don't have
James?
anything. We've been very inactive since COVID.
Yep, no, we know that. Just giving everybody a chance if they had something.
Guess the
I
only
have,
thing
I have a
right-
small announcement. Oh, sorry,
Okay.
James, go ahead.
I guess the only thing I have is I'm trying to restart a hub on the North Capitol Hill area around Volunteer Park, and this is the first time I've been to this meeting in about 5 years, so I'm kind of re-engaging.
Nope, welcome.
Thank
We
you.
will do whatever we can to help you. So Anne, yeah, go ahead and do, you're the central core. Let's go ahead and do you.
Ann Bond, did you mean?
Yeah.
So I'm happy to say that we had a new hub box delivered to our second location in Eastlake. And that's caused a lot of heartburn, which seemed so unnecessary. Thanks for your patience, Anne. It was crazy. I can't believe the state of trucking in, I'll just say, Washington State. I mean, they told us that they were delivering this box 5 times, I think, maybe 6. And the second to last time the box arrived, the guy arrived, one man with a 275-pound box in a truck with no lift gate and no pallet jack. And he wanted to just slide it off the backside of the truck and just roll it over into place. And I said, no injuries, please. But the second time, the very next time he showed up, with a couple of fails in between, he's had the same damn truck again, same guy. So I was like, go for it, man. Let it fly off the back of the truck. And he knew what he was
It's
doing.
like having your
enough.
second baby.
Yeah, seriously, it was. He just let that sucker fall off the back of, not really fall, slide off the back of the truck and got it over into place. And I thought, okay, good. You're in.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, it was just crazy. Anyway, I'm thrilled to have it in place. Again, thank you, Ann Forrest, for your help in getting that dang thing redelivered. They delivered the wrong box to us the first time. So anyway, there it is and ready to be filled. And I hope we never have to use it.
Except in exercises.
Right. Yes.
Okay, there's no one on from Southwest, got Erica and me, and then so Southeast, I don't think we've got anybody from Southeast today. So, all right. Anybody else got, let me see what else I got. Oh, shoot, I wish I'd thought of this at the beginning before people started dropping off, but I will send out my own separate note. So typically Ron, my partner, Jeremis, net control manager, and I have a Christmas party. And it's, it's sort of like, yeah, it's for the West Seattle Ham Club and the ACS people. And we always invited the West Seattle hubs. And then we started inviting all the hubs. So it turns into one big community, everybody who does stuff with radios and hubs, everybody can come. And this year, with COVID, even though we can have indoor events, our house, which is typically where we have it, is tiny. And, it's fun because everybody's crammed together and, it's a real buzz and that didn't feel like we should do that during COVID. So we're going to rent the senior center. So we have a nice big room and we're going to do a potluck. So you will get an invitation. It's a pain in the butt to drive over here. We do it Friday evenings after work so that nobody has to waste a weekend. But if you can come over, you get to meet the ACS team. A lot of those guys come. You get to meet other hub captains. the West Seattle people are all fun. So, you know, you're all invited. So don't feel like you can't come because you're just not part of being part of West Seattle. But if you are willing to make the drive, we will put out the booze and, you know, have at it. So I'll give instructions and more information in a separate email, but I just wanted to personally invite everybody because we'd love to have a decent time this Christmas instead of feeling like we're all sheltering in place again still. So.
What's the
And
date for that, Cindy?
it'll be December 10th, a Friday night. And we usually open the door at 6 and people straggle in and we kick them out around 10. And it's a potluck and we've got a pretty big room so that, you know, you won't feel like you're standing right on top of each other. And I have not heard back from the senior center because I have to get a banquet permit for the serving alcohol. I haven't heard if we have to comply with, I have to check vaccinations or not. I'll put that, however that gets worded into the newsletter, into the invite too. So Friday, December 10th, 6 to 10.
Yet another generous thing you do. Thank you.
But this is a fun thing. This is something I don't have to plan, you know, I just open the door. Really, literally, we go in because I have all these booze that we bought so I could do recipes. We don't, you know, tend to drink it that often. And so it's this giant collection of booze and we put it out every year and it hardly ever goes away because everybody brings their own bottles of wine and beer and stuff. And then I have to put it all away. So I'm really trying to make that stuff go. I'm not trying to make everybody drink, but it's like, I'm going to put out recipe cards and make you make your own drinks or something. So, all right. Anybody else got anything for good of the order? Thank you all for spending yet another night. We'll see you by email and we'll see you next year in January on the 27th. Great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Cindy.
Deep dive. I
Bye.
forgot there's a deep
Bye,
dive next
everybody.
month, but see you. All right.
Bye.
Let me stop recording.